Mark 5:21 through 34. When Jesus had again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue leaders, named Jairus, came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. He pleaded earnestly with him, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she will be healed and live." So Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed around him, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had, yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, "If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed." Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. At once Jesus realized that power had gone out of him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" "You see the people crowding against you," his disciples answered, "and yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering."
Hey guys, this is Brian from Center in Grove City. Hope you all are doing well, that you had great Easters. Hopefully you ate tons of ham and some Reese's Cup eggs. Today I want to take some time to look at a passage that we're actually going to split into two parts. Brady's going to take the second part of it tomorrow, so I'm dealing with the first. So as this story unfolds, Jesus comes back across the lake after casting the demon or legion into the pigs, and the pigs, run into the sea. So he's essentially driven out of town, and when he gets back to the other side of the lake, what we see is a synagogue leader seeks out Jesus. He comes to Jesus and appeals to him to help him to save his daughter. And Jesus agrees to go with the guy and lay hands on this young girl and heal her. But while they're on the way there, Jesus catches everybody's attention. And so we get this story, this picture of this crowd just developing around Jesus while he's trying to get to this young girl. And so in the midst of that going on, a woman appears in this story. And we're told this woman has a medical condition that has plagued her for 12 years. And this woman sees Jesus and thinks to herself, all I have to do is just touch the hem of his robe, to just brush up against him. If I do that, I'll be healed. And so she does. And Jesus senses what's just happened. He knows that this woman's been healed. He feels that work take place. And so he calls out, who is this? Who did this? And after some hesitance, the woman comes forward, and Jesus blesses her for it and, says to be healed. Now, there's some stuff here in this story that we have to really understand. A woman like this, okay, in that society would have been completely cut off. They were very concerned with being clean, especially if they were Jewish, ceremonially. I just totally butchered that word. But the idea of what was clean and unclean. They didn't eat pigs. They didn't eat certain foods. Certain things didn't touch because of concerns about what counted as being clean, pure, holy. Okay. A woman like that, with those kind of problems, she wouldn't have been welcomed. Right now, we're all paranoid about, this virus. This is why we're doing things this way, right? Um, you know, I work full time with some guys, and anytime we do a conference or somebody comes into our office, we have to scrub everything down after to make sure nobody contaminates anybody else. And so by being unclean, by having this condition, nobody would have wanted her around. She would have been on the outside. Anything she touched, people would have thought she was contaminating. Would she contaminate Jesus? Anybody else would have ran away from this woman, would have been horrified to have contact with her. It tells us that she had suffered under, the care of other doctors and that she had given all she had. I remember when I was a kid, there would be always an episode in a cartoon show or series where somebody would get hiccups, and they would go through all these outlandish ways to try and get rid of them. Stand on your head, drink water, jump up and down, scare somebody, whatever. And the entire episode would just be the person continually going through all these horrible things just to try and get rid of that. This woman, in real terms, had suffered. Treatment after treatment, money spent constantly, giving everything she had to try and be alleviated of her suffering so that she could rejoin society and be healthy. And yet nothing had worked for her. Imagine that. Not only can you not fix your circumstance, but it gets worse. And you're doing it alone. So she had some faith, right? Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was faith. I don't know. We don't know. But she at least believed that Jesus could heal her. And so she thinks, I'm gonna snag my miracle and move on. When she does it, Jesus, he's aware of it. And it's funny because, Jesus feels this work take place, and he says, "Who touched me?" If you've ever been to a concert and somebody bumps into you, or if you go to like a street fair or something like that, and there's all kinds of people around, you get bumped into. And you just assume it's part of the deal, right? I'm in a mosh pit. There's 1,000 people here. I'm going to bump into people. And yet Jesus goes, "Who touched me?" And the disciples are, "What do you mean, who touched you? Have you looked around? There's people all around us here." And yet Jesus doesn't stop. He keeps looking. And this woman realizes, I need to own up. I have to say it was me. And she's willing to accept that maybe this isn't going to go the way she wanted it to. It says that she falls before him on her knees, trembling. And she explains everything to him. And instead of Jesus being worried about whether he was contaminated or, why didn't you come talk to me? His response in verse 34, it says, he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." Stop and think about that. It wasn't a rebuke. Jesus wasn't worried about whether she had contaminated him. Jesus saw her faith. In a society that would have fled from this woman, would have cast her out, would have kept her separated, Jesus stood his ground. He said, "Daughter." He didn't look down on her. He didn't push her aside. He saw her as a person, as somebody who needed love and to be healed and be cared for. I don't think it's coincidental either that we see the fact that she had suffered and Jesus says, be freed from your suffering. A lot of times we carry around our own stuff, our own sickness, whether it's guilt, whether it's sin from guilt or guilt from sin. We carry those things around, and they plague us, and we suffer under that burden. Guys, I want to encourage you. You can go to Jesus. We can connect with him. He's not going to back away. He's not going to be afraid by whatever sin, whatever garbage, whatever sickness we have. He can heal it. And when we go to him in faith and knowing we've messed up, he looks at us and says, son, daughter, be freed. Guys, have a great week. And remember that God does love you.